I don't believe in marketing.
It ended up making you lose $200,000. So what went wrong?
Till I was like, oh, it's $200,000. Oops. It took me 4 years to mentally recover from that.
To avoid doing the same mistakes that you have done before.
Don't run passion-driven businesses.
Fall in love with literally working 12 hours for your business. Fall in love with maybe you just want to focus on the tech part, but you don't want to like learn the marketing or accounting part. No, fall in love with that as well.
I didn't want my kids to be put in a box. I wanted them to explore everything.
And if there's actually one lesson you want people to take away from your journey, what would it be?
The rock bottom that you think is rock bottom is not really your rock bottom.
What if I told you that failing at a business and losing $200,000 didn't stop him, but actually fueled him to do something even bigger? Welcome to the Brand Growth Diary, where we uncover the untold stories of founders, innovators, and industry leaders for you to know exactly how to start your brand from those who failed and succeeded. Today, I'm sitting with Omar Ibrahim, a tech visionary, a serial entrepreneur, and also the founder of Jionex. Jionex is a company that is reshaping the way we authenticate media, content, and any type of document that we have worldwide. And now, let's welcome Omar.
Thank you so much, Sanders. Thanks for taking an interest actually in whatever I'm doing. And with that like grand intro, but let's hope I reach that hype of the way you're hyping me up.
No, I mean, absolutely. You have been through a lot and you started like your entrepreneurial journey. I told you, even I was jealous, like from 10 years old. That is just awesome. And actually, speaking of this, so at just 10 years old, your father gave you a programming book. So what was that moment like? So literally speaking of how you started your entrepreneurial journey at the age of 10. So this is something that's extremely fascinating. Like, how can a kid have this mindset?
Well, okay, so technically, I didn't really think of entrepreneurship at the age of 10. I just thought, oh, my dad gave me a book, and I was very like, I really wanted to please my dad, right? So if my dad said, learn this, for me, it became like this thing that I have to figure out everything about that book, right? So he gave me programming in Basic 101. And the moment he gave it to me, I had a computer. He had just brought me a computer, and I kind of log in to the computer. There was no login. You just kind of open the computer, you get MS DOS, the operating system, and I opened the book and I just started to follow the instructions, and that's it. I just put my head in, and I'm like, this is it. This is the book, and I need to learn everything in the book. And yeah, I it took me about a whole month to kind of wrap my head around the basic fundamentals of programming. But yeah, that's what happened. I didn't really think of anything. I didn't think, hey, where's the adult that will teach me how to do this? Or this is too boring. For whatever reason, it really excited me. I don't know why. I mean, it just excited me.
But by the way, usually, like even with little children, if you come to try to tell them we need to study math together, automatically they're just gonna be like, oh no, not here we go again, and I don't know what. But literally getting into programming at that age, so like, how did you ever think like when you reflected back on your childhood, like was that kind of normal for you, or did you feel like, okay, wow, I'm a genius?
Oh no, no, I never. My father thought that. I never thought that. And also like the thing is, I just enjoyed tinkering with things. Right? I told you before as well. I love to figure out how things are working. Like I have like this Zoom camera in front of me from which I'm recording the audio. Like back in the day, I would have probably disassembled it and just looked inside. Just to kind of, I'm very curious what's inside this camera. And similarly, when I had the computer, I was very curious how it's working. So my computer was always like disassembled. Like it never stayed assembled. Like every day I would be like disassembling it, taking things out, removing wires, just kind of to see what's happening, probing, right? And the extension of the computer, obviously, the programming became the thing, right? Because I think I remember asking my father, how does this computer work, right? And he probably had a vague idea of programming. He said, well, there are programmers who program the computer. And I'm like, how do you do that? And so he goes and brings that book and says, that's how. And I'm like, okay, this is how you do it. This is how, a computer gets programmed. And so I decided, let's go, because I wanted to know how it works, and so that's what happened, really, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And actually, one of the things I read about you as well, that by the age of 14, like you had already started a computer repair, like assembly business, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So I would love to know more about that.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, like I told you, I started repairing my own computer, and eventually I started apprenticing we forgot about the whole apprenticeship thing, right? I apprenticed with a lot of people. I've done like screen printing, computer repairs, electrical repairs. So anyway, so I started apprenticing with this guy who fixes computers for a living. And I would just like the moment I would get back home from school, I put back my bag at home, call the guy, say, "Hey, where are you?" He'd be like, "I'm coming." He'll come on his bike, picks me up. Like, where is the parental scare? Like, my parents didn't know this guy, right? He's this he's this adult. I'm like seventh grade, like 14 years old. Yeah, exactly. So I just get on his bike and we'd go to different customers, right? And whenever he'd be repairing, he'd start telling me, "Okay, look what I've done here. The RAM. I had to like clear the dust of the RAM, and he put it back, and it works." And I'd start learning, right? And I learned about how to fix computers, and then I realized this guy is making good money. And
That's my business.
I started taking some of his customers. In fact, he would start like telling me to go to different customers. Once he realized that I can kind of do the things he's doing, he would call me and say, "Omar, I'm not able to reach this customer. Can you go there and fix it for them?" And I'm like, "Sure." And I was on my cycle. I'd cycle there. "Hello, I'm with," I forgot his name, to be very honest. That's so sad that I forgot his name. I'd be like, I'm with him, and he asked me to check your computer, and they'd like look at me like, "Dude, are you sure?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm an expert, don't worry." And I'll just go in and like so confidently, like I don't even know where that confidence came from. Like I was just like, as a matter of fact, of course I can fix this thing. And I'm, "Yeah, there you go." And then they'd be like really impressed. And I guess for them it was a very weird thing to see, like, a kid. And I'm still short. And back then I was still short, right? So like a really tiny kid, really like 5 foot tall kid, with like hair. I had hair. And then just kind of like being very like authoritative, like, "Yeah, come on, leave me alone, let me fix it for you." And I just kind of go in and fix things. Yeah, that's how I started. And eventually I kind of took over his business, took some of his customers, began printing my own flyers. And yeah, it was very natural for me. I didn't really think much about it, like, "Oh, I'm a kid, I'm doing this." I never really thought of myself as a kid.
And actually, yeah, I mean, you're just a teenager, like 14 years old. Like nowadays, 14 years old, what do they even think about? Like, just they want to lay down, they're worrying about school. But you're literally starting a business, going around with a guy on his bike and talking to customers. I mean, by the way, this is one of the most important things as well to build confidence. Like, to let kids in general, specifically at that age, to start to do their own decisions and to go out there and experiment with the world. Like, yeah, a bit of supervision here and there, but in the end of the day, I think this is very important in building confidence, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, this is what I do with my kids as well. I have two boys. I make sure that they're always doing things on their own. If they mess up with something, they call me. They say, "I'm not able to fix this." I'm like, "Figure it out. I'll come and help you when you've exhausted all your possibilities." Because when I was a kid, like my father was not a technical savvy guy, right? And I think that's why he wanted me to know things, because he knew that that's one limitation he has in himself, that he's not a technical guy. So I never really had someone that I could actually kind of turn and say, "Hey, I'm tired. Can you figure out this?" Like, no, I had to figure it out by myself. And to be very honest, I used to enjoy the hunt of figuring things out. Like even till now, like if someone calls me and says they have a problem, like a computer problem or a tech problem, I just can't sleep. I have to keep digging till I figure it out. I mean, now we have ChatGPT, so that's great. So and now it's me and ChatGPT. Like we're talking, we're like troubleshooting things together. Although it's way smarter than me, but it's fun. It's fun for me. Troubleshooting is like it's an addiction. I like troubleshooting technology. Like, give me a technical problem and I want to troubleshoot it and I want to figure out how to kind of resolve the issue.
No, I actually 100% agree. And by the way, this is the truth right now. What everyone is trying to do is that they want to bring something that already exists and make it global. But the thing is, people don't realize that just globalizing your product isn't really the solution. I mean, we have very limited resources, and for some reason, like, we're populating a lot. So the thing is, the right ideology to have is that we need to think of a way that we can make these little resources fit all of us. And this comes with innovation. This comes with you solving that problem, finding first a solution, and then giving it to the people. And honestly, this is like where the real money is.
There's money everywhere. Like banks. You could be a banker and make a lot of money. Real estate. It's. I think if someone thinks about it from a money point of view, then they're going to lose the plot, right? I think solving the problem or coming up with an innovative solution for the heck of it is is what's going to drive you to be. This is my point of view, of course. Everybody has their own point of view, and money comes later. Like I haven't yet even thought about how I'm going to monetize TruLens. till now. I just know that TruLens is something that's required. We'll talk about TruLens in a bit, but I want TruLens to exist. I think that it needs to exist for everybody. Now, how I'm going to make money off it, different situation. We might make a lot of money off it. We might make a little money off it. We don't know. We'll see. But the idea is we want to solve a thing. We want to fill the gap in whatever there is.
Yeah, and actually going back to how you ended up being the founder of TruLens and all the things that you have achieved so far, do you think like if you go back there, like kids today can actually replicate your journey, or was it something like regarding a unique time and the environment that you had that actually helped shape you and build something like TruLens today?
Oh no, absolutely. People, kids, whoever, anybody, whether it's kids or like 50-year-olds, it doesn't matter. They can absolutely do things that I did. In fact, way more easier, right? Because now we have the internet. You can reach out to millions of people instantly. You can market yourself, you can print merch, you can distribute it globally, right? At that time, my entire scope was just like, I don't know, in Arabic, you say haratna, so like haratna wal har al jamb, like the localities around me. That was like my marketing. What's the word for it? Like your market pool, that's wherever I could go with my cycle, that was my market, right? And then there's word of mouth. Someone would call someone, and then I had to like take public transportation to go there. But that was it. But now, like for example, I'm going to keep bringing up my kids, but those are the examples, right? You could publish a book. Like for me back in the day, I would have loved to publish a book, but it used to sound like the most complicated thing. Like you're gonna have to like, first of all write it and find a publisher and do this and do that, blah blah blah. And now you just type the book, you go to Amazon, kdp.amazon.com, and you publish it. It's so simple, right? And you can start making money. You can, do the buymeacoffee.com. I don't know if you've heard of that, but like if you're a creator, if you're someone who's doing things, designing artwork, whatever it is, you can just kind of like have a way to receive money globally from anywhere. You could talk to people anywhere in the world. You can sell them your things, you can talk to them about your ideas. You can no, now it's way easier. I think it's much easier now than before. So definitely people can do it now, whether it's kids or adults. Like I don't think, there's a very funny, there was a movie I was watching the other day. It's called Primer, a very nerdy movie. But anyway, there was a sentence there that said, do you know what they do with 40-year-old engineers? And the other guy's like, what? And like, they shoot them. They're useless because they're old, you know. And I'm 40 years old, so I took offense at that. So whether you're a kid or you're 40 years old, you could probably start anything you like, as long as you have the drive.
Yes, absolutely. And especially right now as well with ChatGPT. The one thing I saw Vishen, the founder of Mind Valley, he was talking about how he published 3 books, but now with the presence of ChatGPT and how ChatGPT can literally write anything for you, writing a book doesn't become as impressive as it used to be. So now even with the things that we have to do for expression and what can make us unique, we have to think and generate new ideas completely like off right now. So yes, back then publishing a book was a huge deal, but now yes, publishing a book can become something so easy, like through KDP, Amazon, and so on. So yeah, totally with you on that. And also, you created Base Radius. So I would love to know more about that because this is like with what I've seen, it's like an incredible learning space for kids, but it ended up making you lose $200,000. So what went wrong?
What went wrong? Okay, I actually have written the answers to that. Okay, I'll tell you what. It's called being an idealist, right? I was such an idealist back then. I thought that it's just my way or the highway. And a few of those mistakes that I made. So, for example, everybody said, you got to market your place, you got to tell people about Base Radius. I'm like, no, no, no. I don't believe in marketing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to teach a couple of kids, and then they're going to enjoy it so much. Their parents are going to be so impressed by the facilities that the word of mouth, the organic growth is going to fuel it. But I'm never going to tell people how good Base Radius is, because I felt at that time that that would be like what's misleading marketing. If I were to claim Base Radius is like the best robotics or alternative educational institute in UAE, I don't know that. How do I make that claim, right? So I never wanted to market, and that was the biggest mistake that I made. So that was one. The second thing was I didn't have like a proper policy in place to receive money from, like from the students. So if parents did not pay me on time or whatever, I kind of ignored it and I let it be. And yeah, so I would kind of like pay things from my pocket. So no bad marketing or no marketing. Again, the other ideology, like the other idealistic thing I had, I don't believe in giving kids like a certificate of merit to say, hey, congratulations, you completed this course. Now you're a robotics expert. And parents, I realized during my 2 year tenure with Base Radius, really wanted those certificates. Like, I think their primary reason for sending their kids to Base Radius was not that the kids are going to enjoy and learn something new. They actually care that, oh, this kid is going to get a certificate that says he completed a robotics course, so that they can use that to either probably advance his career or her career or whatever. And I was vehemently against that. So when parents would say, can you give my kid a certificate? I'm like, no, I don't give certificates out. And frankly, they haven't learned enough for me to give a certificate. Let them enjoy the process. And then when it's time for them to kind of like get a certificate, they'll get a certificate. Don't focus on the certificate. And I lost a lot of customers that way, right? And I didn't care because I didn't really keep track of, how much I'm losing in terms of finances till it was too late, till I was like, oh, it's $200,000. Oops, and then I had to call it quits. And the other mistake was not to realize that you're sinking soon enough, like because I just kept believing that, oh no, it's gonna pick up, it's gonna pick up, and I had so many offers to kind of like pivot or kind of establish the same thing, but like with another institute that was already established. And I was like, what's your philosophy? How do you guys do things? And if they do things slightly differently than I do, I was like, no, thank you for the offer. I'm just going to keep doing the things I do. Terrible, stupid things I've done. And that's why I lost all that money.
And honestly, that kind of financial loss can literally break a person. So, actually, this is gonna be one of the most important things I need to discuss with you. I personally, okay, so my niche is startups in general. So you're talking to the marketing girlie herself. My niche is literally startups. And you can't imagine that most of the time when I speak to founders of startups, they are, a lot of them, they're not even keeping track of their finances. So this is one aspect. Second aspect is that the reason they started, sometimes they feel like they need to follow a specific approach, but that approach is not like entirely for them, and they just refuse to change that ideology. So the thing is, and this is gonna be one of the most important things as well, specifically for startups, is that any small minor thing that happens with them, automatically they just call it quits. So for example, if they lose $1,000 extra, or for example it's consuming them a little bit of more time than they thought, but literally losing $200,000 and then keep on going, like, all right, how did you mentally like recover from that failure, and how are you still mentally going on to building a lot of more brands?
All right, so it took me 4 years to mentally recover from that. So it was not like, oh, I failed. Hey, listen, read this quote. It says, "Stand up after you fail." Yay! No, it took me 4 years. It took me four. It took me 4 years to firstly recover that the financial loss. Like I literally had to. I was working 16 hours a day. I went back to my job. I was taking side gigs. I would do everything and anything that could make money. But because I had kids, I had a family, I needed to make sure that they survive. So for me, it was like, this is the time to start chipping away at, the big mountain of, shit that I've built, and there was a very good friend of mine. He said that he actually told me, he said, listen, man, you've got this big, huge debt pile. If you keep looking at the debt, that it's $200,000, you're never going to like recover. What you need to do is just kind of like start chipping away piece by piece, and eventually you're going to realize that you're done. And that's what I did. And I would always like, so my philosophy back then was, I don't come home till I've either sold something, built something for someone, charged someone money, or like done something to chip away at that big pile of debt. Yeah, and sometimes I'd come home early because I've done something. Sometimes I just won't come home till like 2 in the night till I finally did something. But that was the rule. Every day you got to chip something away. And eventually, after 4 years, I was down to zero. Finally, like back from the minus 200K to zero. And that was like, woo, I did it. I was so happy. And then after that, it took me like 6 months of just relaxing. Like I didn't, if people asked me, hey, what are you doing these days? I would say nothing, just nothing. I'm chilling. Leave me alone. It took me 4 years. Leave me, leave me alone. And then after that, I kind of started doing what we're going to talk about now, the TruLens and TruDocs and all these things.
Oh my God, absolutely. And the thing is, you asked me one question before. You were telling me that, how do you know I'm a successful entrepreneur? So I told you the fact that you're even starting something and you are an entrepreneur, this by itself is a success, because Honestly, like, I don't want to even get into too deep by this, but we have literally heard about people who took their lives for way smaller amounts than this, all right? But the fact that you said,
Mm,
no, it's like it's my way or the highway, and I'm gonna make sure that I recover from this for myself, for my kids, for my family. This is a type of ideology a lot of people don't have. And that's why the entrepreneur's mindset by itself is quite unique. This is by itself a
mm.
success, to be honest, which I trust me, you can't imagine how many people I meet. They don't have this mindset. With any small inconvenience, they will just quit. But for us, we keep on going, no matter how many times life pushes us to the ground. We just stand up again and we keep going, and that's what makes success is.
True, true. But you know what? There's one thing that I would say. Two things I didn't know I needed to learn when I was doing base radius: understanding logical fallacies and cognitive biases. Right? Like I probably knew what they were as I must have heard those words, but I never really understood them properly. And if I were to give advice to anybody starting something, learn about all the logical fallacies that there are there. Learn about all the cognitive biases because and then apply them to yourself. Kind of analyze every move you make and think, am I being biased intrinsically because of something? Like when you do market research, did you really do the market research? Are you just kind of like market researching it so it fits your preconceived notion of yes, this is required, and then you kind of go with it? So you got to be very aware and cognizant of the biases and plus the fallacies, right? You know, you make an argument like when I would present arguments to the people who were telling me that I need to do the marketing or I need to do this or I need to do that. I'm really good at like debating. So I could say things and people would be convinced, even though I know I'm full of it, like I'm full of, but I can easily convince them. And once you kind of like become the guy who can convince people of anything, you start believing your own, BS, right? And that's why you need to kind of like say, hang on, you said that, but does it really make logical sense? Or, are you just being an egoistic guy? And I learned that later and now I'm very, very like, I have no emotion in whatever. If it makes logical sense, it makes logical sense. If it doesn't make logical sense, I don't care whether I believe in it passionately or not, that's it. It's okay. I'm not going to pursue something.
Exactly. And also looking back at like base radius, it felt like more of a passion driven type of business, which is a big mistake. And one of the most important points you mentioned is about the market research. Same thing here. You can't imagine as well how many entrepreneurs I talk to or people who start a business. They will literally go pay for the license, they will get the name, they will do everything, but they haven't even researched their business. They haven't researched the demand of it. They haven't researched who is their ideal customers. And then often in the first year, they would fail and they would close. If they have done the research, at least they would have survived a little bit more until they were able to gather more resources to sustain themselves. So this is like a big problem. So really speaking about passion driven businesses, how can you like advise anyone to avoid doing the same mistakes that you have done before?
Don't run passion driven businesses. No, no. Be passionate, but at the same time, be logical and be wary of, is your passion making sense or is it not making sense? Because passion, like, okay, what was the passion behind Base Radius? The passion behind Base Radius was I wanted kids to enjoy learning, right? Learning math, learning science, learning to explore the world and enjoying exploring the world, right? That was the vision, right? Now you can execute that vision in hundreds of ways, right? I could have probably put in the resources and created a YouTube channel, and that would have been way more successful and probably way more effective than what I was doing, right? So just because you are passionate about an outcome does not mean you should be passionate about the way to do the outcome, right? The ways, the methodology is different than the outcome, right? So yeah.
No, 100%. I'm telling you, so many people are just so obsessed with the outcome. You have to fall in love with the process. Like, this is the one thing I tell everybody. Fall in love with literally working 12 hours for your business. Fall in love with maybe you just want to focus on the tech part, but you don't want to like learn the marketing or accounting part. No, fall in love with that as well. Because all of this is going to be the combination of you reaching to that outcome. And if you're not able to enjoy it, once you actually hit the outcome, you're going to be like, oh, wait, so this is how it feels. It doesn't feel what I wanted it to feel because you did not enjoy the process to get there. And most probably, if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to even reach to that outcome. All right, so after paying off your debt, you started Jionex, which now runs multiple products like TruLens, TruDocs, PayOrio, and Pay2Local. What problem are you solving?
Multiple problems. All right. So these are like four different products solving four different problems. I'll talk about only TruLens and TruDocs because those are the ones that are unique. The other two are just products that would help us make money, so we're running them. TruLens, TruLens is the problem is very simple. How do you know that what you're consuming on the internet, like a video or an image or even an audio message, for example, how do you know that it's real? It's not deep faked. How do you know that this image that you're looking at, for example, the person is claiming that this is an image in Dubai? How do you know that it's really in Dubai? How do you know that this image was taken yesterday? If, for example, I took a video of something and I said, look what I saw yesterday, how do you know that it was actually yesterday? And then lastly, how do you know that it was in a location where I'm saying it is? Right? Those are all the problems, right? So deep fake, location. In fact, one other thing is, how do you know that if you're looking at a video, that the audio on the video is the original audio from the scene when that video was shot, right? And then the last one, let's, for example, say that you send me the recording of today's stream, right? And I kind of take some of the things you said out of context and I put them in an edit and I say, look what Sundus is saying, right? So how does someone say that this thing is not edited and taken out of context? It's so difficult to kind of expect. How do you do that, right? And that's what TruLens is. TruLens is basically trying to build a platform. We've kind of done it. Now we're kind of launching it, but the idea of TruLens is that whatever you see on the TruLens platform, you're 100% sure because of the technology, not because we are guaranteeing it. It's not that TruLens is saying, trust us. We don't want, so the idea is you can't trust someone, right? You can't trust the BBC to say that their video footage is real. You can't trust Al Jazeera to say their video footage is real. What we're saying is do not trust TruLens. Trust the process, trust the mechanism and the technology behind TruLens with the way it does all of these things, right? So if you see something on TruLens, you can be assured that the video is unedited, the video's location that it shows is the real location. It's not a spoofed location. It's not a location that someone tried to kind of edit later on. And the video's audio is real, and that it was actually taken off a real thing. So it's not like a recording of another screen, or it's not even like an upload of an old video. So only when you take the video from your camera and you do not tamper with that. And anyway, the TruLens app does not allow you to tamper with it. But even if you try to, and then you try to upload it on the TruLens platform would reject that, right? So when you go to TruLens platform, whatever you see is real, and that's the idea. It's like you can go to TikTok, you can go to Instagram, you can go to Facebook, you can have your fun, but when you're tired and you want to see real things, you come to TruLens, right? That's TruLens in a nutshell.
All right, and basically, like, how would you make sure the TruLens like ensures the content authenticity? Because right now, fake news like is literally a massive global issue, and it does need tackling, and specifically on social platforms. I think we also spoke about this before that I believe something like TruLens should be integrated into Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. I think it's extremely important. But how can we make sure
Yeah.
that the content is actually
Right. So,
authenticated?
okay. So there are two questions in this question, right? Question number one is okay. Let me tell you how TrueLens does it, and then I'll talk about those things. So the way TrueLens does it is we are following a specification, a global specification called the C2PA, Coalition for Content Provenance and Authenticity. It's a group of companies that have come together and a group of engineers that have come together to figure out how to tackle the situation. So before TrueLens became part of the C2PA, we were doing our own research independently and figuring things out independently. And just to kind of like give you the secret sauce, it's not a secret sauce anymore because the specification is open, the C2PA. The way we do it is we hash things, we have public and private keys, we encrypt, we add multiple, almost 250 data points within the metadata of each frame of the video, which then we kind of like extract and see that nothing has been tampered with. So there are many ways in which you would then ensure that the file that you're receiving is a file that is coming from the real source, that this user's phone and not somewhere else. It's coming from the camera capture and that nothing has been tampered with. So there are various technical ways in which we've done that. At the same time, so we're doing two things. We're doing our own, layering of how do we make sure that things are authentic. Plus, we're implementing C2PA specifications. Now, the beauty of C2PA is what you actually asked, being able to integrate TrueLens with other social media platforms. So once we're completed with the C2PA, what will happen is if someone shares TrueLens video on Instagram or on Twitter or anywhere, and if Instagram and Twitter have implemented C2PA specifications, they will be able to show the people, show the user that this is a TruLens video. It's authenticated by TruLens. And if you want to go back to the source, you click here, you go back to the source. So now this has become now, this is now a thing. Now that, eventually it's going to become commonplace for people to kind of ask, content creators, hey, listen, I don't trust you. Can you authenticate it with some platform? It could be TruLens, it could be some other platform. We're hoping to be the guys in the market that kind of like attract the most attention. Yeah, every other company is building the platforms, they're building the tech. We want to build also the social media platform as well. And the kind of like the mentality. We want to try and create the mentality of consumers to demand authenticity, and then for content creators to say, hey, you know what? I care about my audience and I'm going to do it on TruLens because I want them to trust my content, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with True Documents, True Docs is going to be something similar, but for like documents, basically, to make sure that the documents are, let's say, valid or they are authentic. Am I right? Could you just let me know about it more, please?
So TruDocs is a document attestation system, right? Now, in the current stage, when you want to take a document, let's say a birth certificate or a university certificate, and you want to present it to a department or an entity or a government entity, how does the government know that the document that you're showing them is real, right? Basically, the only way they do it is they say, why don't you take this document to our embassy in your country and get an attestation, right? So then the guy goes back, he goes to the embassy, says, can you attest this document, please, for me? And then the embassy says, well, how do I trust that this is a real document? Can you go to the Ministry of whatever, let's say Interior or Education or whatever, and let them attest it? So now the Ministry of Education goes and says, there you go, this is a valid document. He picks that document up, goes back to the embassy. The embassy kind of stamps it without really validating anything. They're just stamping it based on the stamp of the Ministry of, let's say, Education, right? And then he travels to another country and says, look, your embassy attested it. And then the ministry there says, oh, my embassy attested it. They look at the seal. Yep, that looks like my embassy. Attested, right? But this is such a, first of all, boring paper process, legacy process, and so many loopholes, so many ways in which you can, pay off someone to, do an attestation or even post the attestation. You could change things on the document, etc., etc. What TruDocs does is we use blockchain. We've built a blockchain platform for government entities. So when I say government entities, I'm talking about ministries, embassies, courts, notary offices, universities that generate certificates, hospitals that will issue birth certificates or death certificates, la samah Allah, right? So all of these documents, and they become part of the blockchain, right? And each of these entities is a node on the blockchain that we've created, and users can then say, oh, I have this document that I want to attest. They can open the app, upload the document, choose the entity where they want to present it, and then our platform, TruDocs platform, would say, if you want this entity to agree to this document, you got to attest it from A, B, C, and D, right? And then you don't have to travel to A, B, C, and D. You just go check, 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 check. This is the fee. You pay the fee. Your PDF document then gets hashed, it gets encrypted, it goes on the blockchain, and then it goes to each of these entities, and these entities look at the PDF document, attested, and then each entity can see the previous entity's attestation. And then if they like it or if they're okay with it, they click on approve, and you're just sitting wherever you're sitting, and then eventually you get a document that's attested by all the entities. And the cool thing is, you can obviously send it to whoever you want, but the other cool thing is you can't make changes. The moment you try to alter the document, the entire attestation gets cancelled because of the blockchain technology. So, like one of the questions you had was, what is the blockchain doing? Right? The blockchain is allowing multiple governments to trust each other, because that's what blockchain does. It's like decentralized trust. You can't trust one entity. So none of the government agencies are going to be trusting TruDocs. They're going to be trusting the blockchain system, right? TruDocs will not be part of the blockchain system. It's going to be each government entity, right? And then the moment you tamper with the PDF, the hash changes. And if the hash changes, the entire chain of blocks basically gets dismissed, and it becomes an invalid thing. But the other thing is, let's say that a university gave you a degree and then realized later on that they made a mistake. and so they want to then cancel the issuance of that degree, for example, right? If they do it from their system, all the entities get an alert that this document is no longer valid, this attestation is no longer valid. But in the current situation, even if the university kind of calls the guy and says, "Listen, your university degree is fake," blah blah blah, whatever it may be, right? The guy is still roaming around with his university degree, showing it to people and saying, "Look, I've got the attestations. This is real." So we're kind of preventing post attestation tampering. Plus, we're also helping things become more streamlined, easier, faster, and digital. So you don't need really to save your papers in a file and laminate it or not laminate it, depending on the government that says no, you're not allowed to laminate it. You're allowed to laminate it, blah blah blah, or worrying about it getting burnt. You have everything in a digital repository on your mobile phone, and it's on the blockchain, so it's lived forever. You can always show it to any government entity that trusts the TruDocs platform.
Absolutely. And this is exactly what I'm talking about innovation, all right? So the thing is, you solve not just the government problem, you have also solved the people who tend to travel a lot and they're, let's say, residing in different places. And sometimes they will just have to literally go back to their country to solve some of these issues. No, I mean, you made it literally in seconds like that. So honestly, what was
Yeah.
like the hardest part of turning these ideas into real products? Because this is like some next level innovative mentality right there.
Okay, that's a really interesting question. The hardest part, I think, technology was the easiest part. I've been thinking about TruLens since 2012. So TruLens has been on my mind for a very long time, right? Procrastination and other reasons, I did not implement it, and eventually I kind of started implementing it. Same with TruDocs. I think, okay, I'll tell you, TruDocs was a very funny exercise. You know how, I mean, now everybody's talking about AI, right? If you talk to any entrepreneur, what is he doing or what is she doing? AI agents, AI this, AI that, blah blah blah. A couple of years ago, what was the thing? It was blockchain, right? Everybody was doing things with blockchain, blockchain this, blockchain that, DeFi, NFTs, blah 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 blah, right? And it used to bother me to see such stupid implementations of blockchain. I'm like, come on, you can use blockchain for things that are really needed to do, that blockchain is really required for, right? There were so many things that were being done on blockchain that you could just do without blockchain, and it was just unnecessarily complicated things. And the only reason why they were doing that is just to kind of have the buzzword of blockchain. So I started thinking about what could be an interesting solution that actually requires blockchain, right? And that was the thought process. Like, I kept thinking about different things, and this was one of the things. And I thought, oh, this actually could actually solve a lot of problems, and is a valid blockchain problem. Let's do it, and yeah. So the hardest thing was getting money, right? So I didn't start till I had the money, and luckily for me, I had an investor who's now my business partner, and I love the guy. He's amazing. Actually, without him, we wouldn't have TruLens, we wouldn't have TruDocs, we wouldn't have this conversation. He's the one who pursued me for 6 months. Like, I literally kept saying no to him, like, no, 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 I'm just chilling, leave me alone. He's like, I have the money, come up with some ideas. I'm sure you have some ideas. I'm like, I have some ideas. I had TruLens in the back of my head. I'm like, yeah. He's like, can we do something with blockchain? I'm like, yeah, we can do something. And he's like, let's do it. I'm like, and then eventually, when I got really, really bored of life and of my other job, I called him. I said, are you still interested? Do you still have the money? And he's like, yeah, I still have the money. I'm like, all right, let's do it. So, I mean, having the money and having the guys, he trusted me, A, to implement the technology, and plus B, to kind of like see through the whole thing. Like, he was an honest guy. Like, there were investors who would kind of go halfway and then pull out and saying, we don't want to keep pouring money into this. We don't know where it's going, blah blah. This guy went, he's still with me, right? And we haven't yet turned the profit, but he's still investing. He's still making sure things are, going smooth. So hats off to, like, my business partner, of course. And that's the hardest thing: finding an investor who truly believes in your capabilities, plus not just your capabilities, but in the thing that you're trying to solve. And he understood TruLens, he understood TruDocs, he understood why they're important for the world. And so he kind of like said, let's keep going, let's keep digging. And there were like many times when I would slow down and he would kind of like push me back up. He's like, come on, let's do it. And I'm like, all right, okay, cool. So yeah.
This is absolutely amazing, especially having a partner or an investor that really does believe in you. This is really important because sometimes if they have a complete different mindset, and not necessarily their mindset is wrong, but it can cause the business to fail very early on. but them believing in your idea and them investing in you and maybe guiding you through some things, maybe regarding, let's say you mentioned that you're not into marketing, but maybe they can help with the marketing part. This is where it becomes, where we can say you guys complete each other. You understand? So,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's
Yeah, yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Like marketing, he's doing the marketing, he's doing the conversations with people, finding different ways in which we can start, spreading the news, or he's doing all kinds of things. He's not just like an investor. He's not like a dormant investor. He's like a business partner, and I call him my co-founder as well. So yeah,
That's awesome. Maybe we can have him on another interview as well with both of you.
yeah.
That would be a very interesting episode. Right, so you and your wife unschool your two boys, which is a big thing for a lot of parents. But they have never been to a traditional school either. So this is also like I have a lot of questions there. How did you even make this decision?
Well, okay. I mean, as you saw, base radius. I'm passionate about education. I'm passionate about teaching kids, whether it's my kids or other kids. I don't know why. I've been doing that from when I was in school as well. I would give tuitions or tutorials and stuff like that. So when it came to school, I mean, I had a great schooling. Like, I enjoyed my school life. So it didn't come from like, oh, I hate school, so therefore no school for my kids. I had like the best school life that any school going kid could ever imagine. But then what I realized was that all the various syllabuses and curriculums that are there, whether it's the Indian curriculum, I studied in an Indian school, so like CBSE, or whether it's like GCSE or blah, 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 all of them, right? They all lacked a few things that I really wanted my kids to have: freedom of thought, creativity, and challenging assumptions, right? School usually tries to hinder a kid's ability to challenge the teacher, to ask questions that are totally off, the curriculum, and to be able to do things in a different way. Like, I think it also stems from when I was in school, I would solve questions like math questions in my own way. The answers would be correct, but just because I didn't follow the steps that the teacher said, I would be like reprimanded for that. I'm like, why? And I was a rebel. So it's not like I was sad. I was angry. Like, what's your problem? This is a better way to do it. Just teach it this way. In fact, what an attitude. Anyway, so I like, now that I think about it, like, who are you to talk about? Anyway, but so I wanted them to have that. I wanted them to have the freedom to challenge, to think, to do whatever they want. And again, like with school, I mean, you just kind of narrow down, like, this is life, engineering, medicine, law, commerce. There's no, like, it's not very creative, right? I didn't want my kids to be put in a box. I wanted them to explore everything, and whatever interests them, they can pursue it. And then again, also, the other problem with school is that there's no, if a child shows interest in something, right, and it's not in your syllabus, you can't pursue it. If you're going to pursue it, you're going to have to pursue it after you've done your homework, after you've done your classwork, and the stress with school and the stress with everything. I just thought of it as like a big time waste. And so it was a very easy decision for me. And Nisha, my wife, yeah, she kind of agreed with my points, and she said, yeah, I agree with you. Let's do it.
And actually, speaking of full freedom, so I think you have a 12-year-old who published a book, and you have a 10-year
Yeah.
old who's a YouTuber. So this is like a next level of
Hmm.
freedom, and it's something that's a bit scary for a lot of parents as well. How are you
What?
dealing with that?
Mhm. Oh, just I give them freedom. Like, they're allowed to do whatever they want. They're allowed to challenge my authority. I don't have an authority. I don't really. They don't even call me dad. They call me Omar. And I've taught them ever since they were kids how to debate, how to argue, how to question assumptions. And then sometimes it kind of bites me back, because I would want them to do something, and then they'll use the same tools that I taught them, like to question the logic behind what I'm saying, and I'd realize, yeah, that doesn't make sense. Okay, fine. You can have another few hours playing video games or whatever, that kind of thing. So they are pretty good now at like being able to, if you make a claim to something, they'll challenge that claim, if it's a stupid claim, or they'll just ignore you and just like, yeah, whatever. By the way, that's I put that book there. That's my child Ibrahim's book.
Oh, this is so nice. You must be very
You've
proud
read
of
it?
both of them.
I don't know. So let me explain. Of course, I'm proud of them. I mean, they're my kids, but I don't want them to be. Me being proud has nothing to do with their achievements and their progress. I want them to keep improving. Like that. That book is a good book. It's a good effort, but I want him to improve. if he wants to, right? I want him to learn the ability to iterate, improve, go back and fix things, iterate again, improve, improve, improve. Because that, I mean, I keep giving them examples of all the beautiful things that they've done, right? If they play Minecraft, I'm like, look at Minecraft, the game, the engineers that put together that game, or like Breath of the Wild, Legend of Zelda, or, the Harry Potter series that they love. Like, how much effort has gone into creating such a beautiful product, right? It's not like you just kind of like, I'm going to make a game, boom, 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 there's the game. No, it took a lot of effort from the creator, and so I teach them that, and I teach them, you got to put effort. If you want to make something beautiful, you got to put enough effort into it. The more effort you put into it, the more iterations, the more fixes, the more beautiful it's going to be. And if you want people to enjoy things that you're creating, you have to devote the time and the energy. So like, I don't want them to think that, oh, just because they did one thing, they should be like, wow, I'm amazing, I'm a published author. Bullshit. I mean, I published your book, dude. Like, it's like, I went to KDP and I did all of that. I don't want them to. I want them to understand that things are not as easy. You need to put effort, right? And I speak that because my father was always like telling me, oh, you wrote the computer program. Wow, you're a programmer. Technically, no. Just because I wrote one program does not mean I'm a programmer. I got to do more things to qualify, those terms. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think for your age, I mean, it was a big milestone, to be honest, and even for your kids' age, I see that it's a big thing. Not every day a 12-year-old publishes a book, or actually, even this, a lot of kids are insecure, okay? Let's be honest about that. So the thing is, imagine picking up a phone and starting a YouTube channel and showing your face to the world. And all of these things are a success for their age. And one thing I love, one point you mentioned, I really loved, by the way, is how I'm proud of them regardless of their achievements. And I think this is extremely important that parents do remind their children that they are good enough, like regardless of the achievements that they are doing, because unfortunately a lot of people stay their whole life looking for like love and for them to be accepted through giving too much and burning so much energy the whole time, and it takes them many years until they realize they're just worth it on their own. So I love that statement when you mentioned that I'm proud of them regardless of their achievements, but I pushed them to keep improving.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my love for them has nothing to do with what they achieve. Their achievements are their own, for themselves, for their own glory, for their own satisfaction. And I always tell them, like, yeah, for me, it's like, I want them to be happy, whatever. The idea is to learn to be happy, right? If you want to be happy doing things, be happy doing things. If you want to be happy just being a regular guy, being an employee, be an employee. I don't want them to do what I'm doing, and neither, like, I love football, right? And when my older son was like a little kid, I always like gave him a football, and I was like hoping that he would become a football player. And then eventually I realized, oh, he doesn't really care about football. So I didn't get like I didn't keep pushing him towards football. I was like, all right, if you don't like football, you don't like football. Am I disappointed in him? No, no, I'm just joking.
Yeah, let's see what he feels about that.
Oh, he'll do the thing that I told you. He'll tell me, like, what's your problem? It's my life.
Actually, yes, speaking of a 9 to 5 job, or basically speaking of picking the job for you or becoming an entrepreneur. So, if somebody is basically right now stuck in their 9 to 5 and they want to break free, what are the first steps that they need to take to become an entrepreneur or to escape the 9 to 5 stigma?
Okay, can I, if you don't mind, I would say there should not be any stigma to a 9 to 5 job. If you're doing a 9 to 5 job and you're happy with yourself, do it. This is like a marketing thing where people think that, oh, you should not be an employee, you should be your own boss. I mean, different people have different needs, and it's all about stroking your egos in different ways, right? Some people do great, they climb the corporate ladder and then they become CEOs, or they become VPs, or managing directors, or whatever it may be, and that's a great thing, right? Entrepreneurs, they're just restless. They have something in them that either they think that they can do something better than what they're looking at, right? So, like, for example, if I was an employee of Linus Torvalds, imagine that Linus Torvalds, the guy who wrote Linux, started a company, and I was an employee of Linus Torvalds. I probably would have never thought, oh, I could do that better, because that guy's a genius. I'd be like, I'm just going to keep staying with this guy, right? So entrepreneurs, they see something and they think, oh, I could do better. I could build something better, or I can solve that problem better, right? And that's their mentality, right? They want to always try and fix things. They think they can do things better. They think they can come up with new things, etc., etc. And some of them probably also just don't want to be bossed around, and that's a completely good reason why you can break free. But if I were to give my advice to whoever it is who really wants to break free, my advice would be, first, do the thing that we talked about first, right? The logical fallacies, the cognitive biases. Come up with your plan, make the plan, study it well. Don't just leave out of like a passionate fury, Be methodical, right? Let the passion drive the efforts to what you're going to do. Don't let the passion make you take risky decisions for no reason. Like, risk is good, but just taking risk for that, like, I'll tell you, and I'm saying that from like my experience, right? Because I used to assume that being a risk taker is the thing, right? This is like, oh, I could take a risk. I could quit any day I like, and I should do that, right? I'd have a job, a 9 to 5 job. And then one fine day, this is how I quit. This is how I started Base Radius on this. I was teaching my kid something, and then I was praying, and then I saw him say things, and I was like, whoa, he really understood what I was teaching him, right? And then that thing just kind of like was like, I should do that for every kid. I should start something, blah, 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 blah. And boom, 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 boom. And then out of this like passionate fury, I open my laptop and I submit my resignation letter there and then. No thoughts, no plans. Oh, no, seriously. And I've done that many times. Every 9 to 5 job I've had, or 9 to 6 job in Dubai, but whatever, like every job I've had, I've quit with absolutely no pre planning. I'm like, oh, I'm bored, quit. No regrets, no remorse. The Frank Sinatra song, I Did It My Way. I mean, trust me, he's probably like, his heart is like aching when he's singing that song, because you did it your way, but you kind of lost a lot of stuff, right? So yeah, you don't have to, like, we read poems, we read, like, quotes that, drive you to do things. Don't let those quotes drive you, because those quotes are out of context. There's so many more things, so much new nuance that is missing in like a statement. Break free and whatever. No, just because you heard I want to break free, the song, on your way back from work, you decide to quit. No, don't do that. Plan, come up with an idea, and then kind of execute. Like, be passionate about the execution. Sorry, I'm rambling, but that's the answer. Yeah.
I get you 100%. And I do believe that you don't need to become an entrepreneur to become successful. I don't believe in that at all. I do
Yeah.
see it in a lot of employees as well, because maybe that's what they love. As I mentioned, we're all born with this fire inside of us towards something. So whether it's becoming an entrepreneur and solving a problem for a group of people, or whether it's literally baking or being a tech guy, or just doing marketing and so on. So the thing is, just find the area of passion and love, and at the same time, what can help you make money, and focus on that, whether as an employer or whether if you can start a business. But usually starting a business, there's a different challenges. And then with being an employee, there's different types of challenges. So 100%, I'm with you with that. And actually, we're gonna become to the a very interesting part about entrepreneurs, which is going to be the entrepreneur segment. So what will this do is going to be like a checklist of how did you become an entrepreneur, but with different things. So it's going to be about your regret, about the books you read, and so on. So let's get started, okay? All right, so first thing is, I want to ask you, what is the biggest regret you have as an entrepreneur?
Just the things I've already said. Not being passionate about the wrong things, not thinking about things in a logical, clear-headed way, without having my emotions come in the way. All right, that's my biggest regret. Other than that, I don't have any regrets. I'm very happy with everything I've done, the failures, the successes. I'm good with that. I can live with that. It's just that I wish I could sometimes not make stupid mistakes, right? Don't make stupid mistakes. If you make a mistake, even though you tried something and you tried a logical thing and it failed, you're happy with that. But if you make a mistake because you knew that you did something stupid, because you took a decision based on your gut feeling or emotions or whatever, that you're gonna feel bad later on that you did that.
Yeah, absolutely. But even the stupid mistakes are good mistakes. Like one thing I have read somewhere is sometimes you're so
Mm.
scared of taking the first step or even the second step to go to where you have to be. But there was a very nice quote I think I've read somewhere, maybe it was a TikTok video, which basically said that if you knew your success is going to come after 30 failures, wouldn't you want to fail faster? So the thing is, this really changed my ideology about everything. Not anything, literally everything. If I want to focus more with, for example, I want to become a content creator, I want to build a 6 figure, 7 figure business, and then I knew I have to do some things that are very annoying for me and they're going to be embarrassing and I don't know what. No, I'll just rather do them and get them over with, because I'm going to be one step closer every day to my goal, which is what we want. Again, falling in love with the process and just doing it anyway.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't want to drag this and kind of like nitpick on that thing about the TikTok thing, but yeah, I agree with you.
No, I swear, I love TikTok.
No, no, it was not. It was not about TikTok. I meant the thing that the statement that if you knew the 30 things, you have to do those 30 things to fail. I mean, that's an illogical statement, but I mean, I get the sentiment.
Yes, exactly. It's basically if like you knew that after 30 failures, at the 31st, you're actually going to succeed, you would want to finish those 30 failures faster.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
The second question we have is one book every founder should read.
Okay. I don't think founders should read only one book. They should read multiple books. But if I were to, think of one book, I don't know if you've heard of this book called The Hard Things, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. It's by Ben Horowitz. So Ben Horowitz is an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur, a VC, and he kind of like writes the way I like to write, which is like complete brutal honesty. Like I don't like to add euphemisms. I don't like to, and he does the same thing with this book. He just talks to you like exactly what we're talking about, not to make these stupid mistakes, the logical, the emotions, and how do you fire people, how do you hire people, how do you pivot, how do you make the hard decisions. It's a great book. If every entrepreneur, if they read this book, what's going to happen is they're going to realize, oh yeah, I should listen to this guy. They're going to actually be able to implement a lot of the things. Pretty good book. I would definitely advise everyone to read that book.
Definitely gonna read that book as well. I'm such a book geek, so definitely I'm gonna go for reading that. All right, so for the
Excellent.
third question is what's a rule or a law you think is completely useless?
I used to have a T-shirt that says I void warranties. I void warranties. And it had like different screwdrivers as pictures. Basically, the law I'm talking about is the law that says, Apple, Samsung, everybody has there's a law that says if you're not allowed to repair your own hardware. And I think that's bullshit. If I buy something, I have the full freedom to, dismantle it, look under the hood, fix it, modify it. It's none of your business, man. So, I think that's a stupid law. And I think any company worth its salt should never prevent its users from, fixing their things.
Yes, I agree, 100%. I think they do this just to, have a way of getting more money from us later on.
Oh yeah, so it's basically like the idea is that the moment you open, like for example, an iPhone, the moment you open your iPhone, the warranty is void, right? And also, in extreme cases, they can even file charges against you for saying, "Who asked you to open your iPhone? You're not allowed to open your iPhone." And even now, more recently with cars, you're not allowed to fix your own car. Really? I mean, come on. The magic of owning a car is to be able to pop up the hood and tinker around and do things. Yeah, so I think that's a stupid law. The other, like, because you asked me a law that's useless, I wanted to bring this up because it was something that I passionately believe in. But a useless law is the one that says I accept the terms and conditions.
Did you read about
Like every
the lawsuit that happened in Disney, by the way?
Oh yeah, can you imagine that? That's crazy. So like I don't even know how they got away with it. Ideally, they shouldn't be getting away with it because if a law says that if your wording is too convoluted or your terms and conditions are so long that you know that your consumer is not going to read them, then that contract is kind of not really enforced. But then this is Disney; they have the money. Of course, they're going to win.
Yeah, but I think after so much publicity, like that guy went viral because of this. So they ended up compensating him. I mean, they can't compensate for his wife's life, but yeah, that happened basically. All right, so now for the last question for the entrepreneurs check is what is the best and worst part about being an entrepreneur?
Oh man, I really didn't think of this. I was supposed to think about this. I didn't. All I thought about it is that it's the same thing. You know, you have to be self-driven. With a job, your boss is eventually going to call you and say, "Show up, man." As an entrepreneur, nobody's going to call you up and say, "Show up." You show up, you succeed. You don't show up, you fail. So being, your own boss, that's amazing. But being your own boss is also like a problem because who's gonna? push you to do things, you know? So yeah.
It's you, basically.
Yeah, yeah. And I hate myself. I'm stupid. So how am I going to push myself? I'm joking. But the idea is like if you're a procrastinator, you're not going to be able to get things done, right? And that's probably where good teams and good partners, especially those who can complete you, they work. And there's one, sorry, I'm telling you one more thing. The idea that an entrepreneur should be this one guy who solves this mega problem, I think that's a flawed mentality, right? Just because there are like a few examples of like startups that succeeded because of one guy who had this visionary idea, and but in reality, most startups are formed by a bunch of guys, a bunch of team members that complement each other, challenge each other, and then push each other to succeed. So it becomes like each one is the other guy's boss, and they're able to you know propel each other to succeed. And people should not think that I can do it alone. Most likely not. I mean, I have no idea how to do sales, how to do marketing, how to do any of these things. I can just do the tech. And I definitely need a good team with me who can do the rest.
Yes, absolutely. And if there's actually one lesson you want people to take away from your journey, what would it be?
The rock bottom that you think is rock bottom is not really your rock bottom. Trust me, there are way deeper ways that you can go. So don't be scared. Just dust yourself off and, continue. Don't worry about it. Life hasn't ended till life ends. So, don't worry about it. Don't beat yourself up. Learn from your mistakes and enjoy the journey. I mean, you're here to enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey.
Exactly true. And there's one also quote I read, which says that if it was easy, then everyone would make it. So that is the one thing to keep in mind as well.
And also, my favorite quote, well, it's a very long quote, so I'm not going to read it, but it's something to do with the critic. The critic that criticizes you is just someone who's not doing anything. They're just like busy criticizing you. Ignore the critic. Ignore the critics that are not doing anything. If someone is doing something and they're telling you with love and passion and empathy something, listen to them. But if there is a critic that's criticizing your product and they're just like a reviewer, if he's not your customer, if she's not your customer, have fun ignoring them. It's the best feeling that you can do is ignore someone.
Exactly. And sometimes they are criticizing you is because they're scared of doing this. They're like their own selves. So it makes sense.
Scared, jealous, whatever. Yeah.
So, Omar, now this is going to be the end of our segment today. And what I would want to know is, and I'm pretty sure the audience would want to know, is because you have an amazing, innovative mindset, where can people follow you and learn more about your work?
Okay, so at the moment, LinkedIn, my LinkedIn page, you can go to my LinkedIn page. You can just search Omar Ali Ibrahim, you'll find me there. Other than that, omarali.me, that's my personal blog. It's down at the moment, but I'm going to bring it up again soon. So my blog, omarali.me, that's where I post all my rants, all of the things that I want to say out loud. There, LinkedIn is there as well, but LinkedIn, you got to be polished, you got to be sweet. If you want the true raw Omar experience, omarali.me.
All right, awesome. And also, if you want to check out TruLens and TruDocs, we're going to leave their links down below in the comments because everyone deserves authentic and true information to be out there. And at the same time, technology is what's happening right now, and we need to learn how to use it in the right way. So all of these details are going to be down below. I'm also going to leave Omar's LinkedIn down below if you want to connect with him and you want to chat about his crazy ideas. This is completely going to be open there. So Omar, thank you so much for joining us on the Brand's Growth Diary. So this was an extremely interesting experience, such a nice conversation. And at the same time, I'm very glad you were fully open and honest. And like this is actually quite unique for a guest to be this way. So thank you so much for coming on our stream.
And thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed this a lot.
Thank you so much. And we're gonna have a weekly episode with a different guest. So make sure to subscribe and like Amado Strategies for more entrepreneurial stories and for more marketing tips as well that are going to come along the way that can help you with reshaping your mindset about your brand.